Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's event. Apologies, we're just a couple minutes late starting here. Of course, just having some tech issues as we do, but yeah, we're excited to get started in just a couple minutes here. Before I do, I just want to make sure that everybody in here is familiar with the room that we're in. And I'll probably repeat some of this information a few times here today, guys, but the chat function is in the bottom right corner there. Beside that, there's a questions tab. So throughout the presentation, feel free to interact with us. You can communicate with each other in the chat. But if you do have any questions that's not pertaining to the workshop, so if you have any live questions for what you're working on in the live workshop, feel free to throw that in the chat. If you have any questions in general, that we can kind of answer at the end of the live workshop, or if you have any questions for me about Circuit Stream or the courses or, anything along those lines, throw those ones in the questions tab. And then at the end of the event, we'll loop back and do a little bit of Q&A with you guys once we've done the workshop or completed the workshop there. So that's a little bit about the space. We've also got, I'm going to make sure that everybody did this. Hopefully of course, the link is not going to work. So I'm just going to copy it here. So this, we'd sent out an email in advance to everybody. This is the Google Drive here now. So if anybody didn't get a chance to click and download this Unity information, or if anybody didn't get a chance to pre-download Unity itself, the free download, then go ahead and do that now. I'll put that up there too, actually. Give me just 1 second. So that's the Unity download. You should be fine on Mac. I think Matt's responding in the chat there. He'll probably be able to give you a little bit more. Mac works great. Yeah, you should be fine there. Just as long as you've got Unity. I think Unity 6 might be the one that Matt had recommended, but any free version of Unity should work for today's session here. So those are the downloads, just to make sure that you guys are ready to go for the actual workshop. Unity 6. Yeah, perfect. That should be good. Yeah, that's awesome. So like I said, guys, communicate with each other in the chat, just like you are right now. If you have any questions for us outside of the live workshop, throw them in the questions tab. But you can throw any live questions into the chat while Matt's kind of doing the workshop there. So I will go ahead and get this started here. So I'm going to flip over to this screen because you don't need to see me as much as the presentation. Any sound yet? Nicholas, there should be sound. I think everyone can hear us okay. If you're not hearing us, I guess you probably wouldn't hear me saying this right now if you can't hear us in general, but thank you, Matt. Yeah. Can hear loud and clear. Awesome. Thanks, Sophia. I was just kind of curious there, making sure. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get the presentation started here for now. Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Nicholas. Awesome. All right. So today's session is Intro to Game Creation, build your own third-person controller. I, of course, am here kind of hosting today's session. My name is Tyler Trapp. I'm the Marketing Events Manager. I've been with this company for almost 4 years. I guess this summer would be rounding 4 years. And before that, I used to work in hospitality and tourism, so a little bit of a different area. I'm not inviting you up quite yet, Matt, so don't come up on the stage yet, but I will be inviting Matt up on stage in not too long here. He is one of our game development instructors, and he is going to lead today's interactive workshop. So he'll be coming up to teach everybody how to create the controller there. Before we do that, I'm just going to share some quick information about who we are. So Circuit Stream began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, and creators. And we're now a leading provider of technology learning in different areas like game development and design, product management, augmented virtual reality, software development, so a bunch of different areas. We also have a bunch of youth courses that are available right now. We go as young as, I think, 8 all the way to 18. Maybe 9 to 18. That sounds more accurate. But we have a couple courses in our Explorer field, which is like 9, 10, 11. And then 12 to 18, we have our pre-university courses available. And they span from finance to technology, drone engineering, game development. So I always share this information if anybody in the crowd knows anybody who's a little bit younger and kind of curious to get started. Our summer courses are amazing. So just reach out and let us know if you have any questions about that. But since our start overall at CircuitStream in 2015, we've educated over 50,000 learners globally, and we are constantly updating our curriculum to stay ahead of the curve. And then some of our gaming partners on the screen there. Our main goal at CircuitStream is to bridge academics with industry to shape real-world experiences and to teach the skills of the future through innovative learning experiences. So you may be wondering, how do we achieve this? We do this through project-based learning. So when we design our curriculums for all of our courses, our boot camps, we basically begin with employer data and research. And then based on that, we create experiences and projects to provide our students with career-ready skills. So basically, we're going out into the industries, we're asking the professionals what's relevant, what's current, what's needed, what's necessary, and then we're taking that information and using it to build our curriculums for our courses. So taking this approach allows us to partner with some of the top universities in North America and to provide technology education for, as I mentioned, youth as well as adult learners. In fact, we are the only Canadian technology education company who's currently partnered with these universities to provide these types of boot camps and courses here. So just a little bit, a few of our university partners. Because we rely on industry and employer data and information to create educational content, our students develop in-demand applied skills that actually matter in market. So it's kind of what I was saying before. When we go out and we connect with industry professionals, get their feedback, and then build our courses based on that, just ensures that our students are kind of being ejected out into the world after they complete our courses, and they have a set of skills that are actually going to matter for them in market when they get there. So this prepares them to seamlessly transition into the workforce and confidently tackle any sort of real world challenges that they come across. We also iterate on our course materials constantly in order to provide our students with the most up-to-date programs and tools. This is a quick little snapshot of some of the tools that we use in our game development and our game design boot camps, including Unity and Unreal engines. We also provide a gateway into the industry for our students through dedicated career support services by equipping them to showcase their project design and development skills and behavioral strengths, elevate their digital presence along with their personal brands. They delve into specializations, gain understanding of the interview questions associated with each. They craft captivating portfolios. I feel like I'm going to stumble over my words a little today here, guys. Sorry. They craft captivating portfolios. It's kind of a hard thing to say, featuring their projects, and learn how to excel at industry networking while thoroughly preparing for job interviews in the tech world. So our career in networking really sets our programs, our boot camps apart from others that you may find out there. Basically, every student that comes to us has different sort of objectives when they come into the courses. But any of our students who are looking for new jobs, or if they're looking to improve on their current positions, they find the career aspect of our course incredibly helpful. So just a little bit about our career support. And I'm going to take a quick look at some career opportunities. The gaming industry has grown significantly in recent years. Obviously, there's ups and downs and layoffs in large companies, times through COVID, but overall, when you look at the numbers, the industry itself has grown quite significantly. And then, of course, with that, there are a ton of opportunities as well. So in the US, there are over 3,000 gaming studios employing almost 300,000 people. And in Canada, there's been tremendous growth with over, just in the last few years, there's over 900 active game studios. And that is a 35% increase since just 2019. So that's what I mean when I say, you can kind of see on the news, sometimes when you read the news, everything's doom and gloom. In industries, you see layoffs, you see highs, lows, whatever the case may be. But realistically speaking, if you stand back and look at the whole scope of the industry, there's been a tremendous amount of growth, and specifically within Canada too, just 35% increase in active studios between 2019 and 2024, I think is when we got that stat. So just a couple months back. Is pretty crazy. So Canada's GDP is not only that, the game industry contributed over $5 billion to Canada's GDP, which is a 29% increase in just the last 4 years as well. So lots of potential there. As a game designer, this is some opportunities for game designers. Great if you had Europe and Australia info. Craig, we can we probably do have some of that information. Not probably, we definitely have some of that information in-house here. If you reach out to us, actually, Craig, I'm going to provide some contact details later in the session But just right now, for the purposes of just kind of answering that question for you there, if you reach out to admissions@circuitstream.com, just all one word, lowercase, admissions, and then at circuitstream.com, one of the people on our team can reach back out and they can absolutely give you some details there. We actually have university partners in Australia too. So University of Melbourne, I think, is one of our partners out there too. So cool. So yeah, you let us know if you need anything. And Craig, if you get stuck anywhere, if somebody will respond, but if you need anything at all, you can also email me at tyler@circuitstream.com, and I'll connect you with the right people there. So, all right. So opportunities for game designers. The average salary for game designers is $120,000 per year. This is both estimated in the US and in Canada. There are a range of job titles in this field. So usually when people are kind of completing any sort of education, university, a boot camp, like whatever it may be, I would usually recommend that they don't just go out and look for game designer roles. The reality is you're going to find roles in different things like level designers, system designers. There's a whole whack of different UX designers, UI. So, and they can all use the relevant game skills that you've learned in the game design course. So in other words, don't just look for game designer roles. There's a lot of other roles with those skill sets that are just titled different sorts of things. Similarly, for game developers, there are over 8,000 job openings for game developers in the United States alone. The average salary is sitting at $121,000. And again, like I said in the last one, game engineers, game programmers, developers, Unity developers, there's lots of different titles that you can look for, not just game developer when you're looking for opportunities there. Yes, Ivan, this session will be fully recorded and will be sent out afterwards. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Exactly. It'll be automatically sent out via email from the Livestorm system here at the end of the event. So I've got it set to record there. It should be good to go. If for any reason you didn't receive that, again, just reach out to me at tyler@circuitstream.com and I can get it to you. It should be there, and it'll also be posted on our YouTube page within the next day or two as well. So awesome. All right. And then in terms of hiring for remote positions, because of the nature of our company and because we teach live classes, but they're all taught online, and people can kind of take our courses from anywhere in the world. With that, we get a lot of questions. I'd love to take your course. I live in Northern Canada and, some very small town. There's going to be no big game studios here for me. What am I going to do? Is there actually going to be opportunities for me out there in the world? And that's why I like to show this information. Before I do these sessions, I always go through and just kind of have a quick scan through the available jobs, Indeed and whatever, a whole bunch of different ones that I'll go through here, but Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, whatever the case may be. But these are all logos from companies who are currently hiring for remote roles. So again, because we teach remote education, a lot of our students are located in big city centers or close to universities or game studios or, whatever the case may be. But for a lot of our students, they're not. They're just located in kind of more remote spots. So I just do this to kind of show you there's opportunities there too. And this would be a whole variety of different positions. I didn't list all the positions, but it would be like game development roles, game design roles, and then obviously a bunch of the other like level designers, UX designs, programmers, whatever the case may be. But these are all companies hiring for that type of work right now. So now I'm going to share a little bit on the each of the two boot camps before I invite Matt up on stage to do the live workshop with you guys. So I'll start off with the game design boot camp. This one is designed for those who want to enter the gaming industry as a designer, those who want to establish their own company or utilize game skills in their current roles. The great thing about this bootcamp, and all of them, I guess, are they're project-based. So you'll gain practical skills while working on real-world projects. And over the course of the 30 weeks, you'll learn to analyze game development elements, conceive gameplay concepts, design game mechanics, create functioning game prototypes, and test novel gameplay ideas. You'll also learn about the role of a game designer and its various specializations and how they fit into video game production kind of overall. And then I just included some information here. The normal price for this course, just in case anybody was looking at it, is $14,995. We do have an early bird rate available right now until February 28th. So just for a few more days, with 15% off. So that knocks the rate down to $12,745 as opposed to the $14,995. And then beyond that, I don't have it listed there, but there'll also be a 10% off window that runs straight through to March 21st. So if anybody's looking for the upcoming cohorts, May 13 is the next available one. I shouldn't say available. I don't know what the availability is. We do sell out often. So, but if you do have any questions, just reach out and we can take a look and see what the availability looks like for those. We've got some different time slot options too. So there's likely something there for you. And then the Unity Game Development Bootcamp is designed for people looking to get into the gaming industry as a developer, looking to start their own companies, or just to bring Unity development into their current role. All of our courses are beginner friendly, but this one does tackle advanced concepts as you progress in terms of coding. So if you do have some coding experience, the first couple of weeks might be a little bit of a refresher for you. But we do have assistance there, an additional coding add-on to the course for you there so that you can kind of get a jump on that. And again, with like I said in the last bootcamp, it's also project-based. So you'll learn the concepts in class and be able to apply them to real life. And you can do your capstone projects there. That's what you present on pitch day at the end of the bootcamp to industry partners and people who are hiring. And our students really enjoy this aspect of the course because it allows them to build up portfolios. So similar with the design, all project-based leads to you having some work that you can show for yourself once you complete the course. And when you're applying for jobs, you can include your work, which 95% of the time is going to be probably the most relevant thing they look at, because if they're hiring, they want to see that you know what you're doing, and they want to see they want to see that you can do what they want and that you know how to do that. So they want you to see examples of your work and then kind of show how you got there. And if you can prove that, most times you're going to be pretty strongly considered for the role that they're hiring for. So, and then similar for this one, the pricing is the same. We're in the 15% promo window. That ends on February 28th, and the 10% would follow, and that would run until March 21st. So if you're looking to register for the Game Development Bootcamp, similarly, just let us know. We can check the availability, see what sort of time slot options there are still open for you there. So that is the boot camps. And I did mention before that you finish the course, each of those boot camps, with a portfolio of projects. You also receive a digital badge, so for developer or designer, depending on which course you take there. And we also have a network. So we have a private Discord server, which has, I think, around like 1,500 members right now. And it's basically just a community for current students, past students, instructors, industry professionals, basically everybody to network with each other. We have a lot of designers and developers that end up working together to create projects, submitting to Steam, getting their games developed. You can ask instructors questions, you can ask peers questions, industry partners. So just a great place to kind of lean on during the course. And then, of course, afterwards when you're looking for opportunities in the industry as well. And the game development course specifically, just to shout out, we worked with Unity to create the certifications. We actually worked with Unity to help create their initial certifications years back too. But when you take the development course, we also include an additional level of certification. So our certifications for the courses are Unity backed because Unity is our partner and we actually created these courses with them. But when you take the game development course, you get the option to go through to Unity's website and take their certified associate programmer exam and get certified at an additional level directly through Unity. So normally that would cost $450, but it's included in the course. So once you've completed the course materials and you've graduated and you've maybe reviewed a bit, get confident with what you've taken, and then you go through and take that. I think you've got about a year or so to take it after the course completes. If you don't pass the first time, you would have to pay for any further attempts. But for the very first attempt and for you to get that certification, the $450 would be covered and included in the bootcamp. So just an extra level of certification on the game development side that we can do through Unity for our students there. Now, I am going to officially invite Matt up on stage. Matt is, as I mentioned before, one of our game development instructors, and he's going to lead today's interactive workshop on how to build your own third-person controller. So I will get out of the way and off stage when he comes up here. I'll let you guys take over and do the workshop. I'll be here in the chat if you guys need anything at all. And once Matt finishes, I will hop back up on stage and we can do some quick Q&A there if anybody has any questions for me about the courses or just in general. But feel free to throw your questions about the workshop just into the chat as Matt's kind of doing it there. So welcome to the stage, Matt. You can join anytime here.
Hello. Hello.
Perfect. Hello, hello. All right, I'm going to get out of your way here, Matt. Thank you.
Good. Hi, everyone. Whole bunch of us in here. All right. Yeah. So we're gonna be building a Unity game here. We're gonna go right from like scratch. Like we're gonna start from the very beginning and go all the way towards it. There is a file that's been provided that has like a complete version basically there. So if you're not able to keep up with some of it, there is that version that you can look back on and get use as like a resource to kind of help you rebuild it if you need to after. But yeah, so we'll go from scratch here. Let me get my screen share up. We will do this screen. There we go. Perfect. So here's my screen here. Now I already have Unity open, but I will show how to do like a full Unity kind of setup here just for everyone. The email did have some instructions on how to do that, but I know it was there was some issues with it. It was connected to our Slack or something, so we'll go over it from scratch here. But hopefully everyone was able to install this here. This is Unity Hub. So Unity Hub is the default tool for installing different types of the Unity editor. And this is where we need to start here. So if you don't have Unity Hub, you'll want to start with downloading that. And you'll also need to make sure you log in. So Unity requires like a validation in order to download installers. So it may double check that for you. So we'll cover how to double check that here. So up on the top, this is where you can log in the top left. We'll need to log in because we're going to download Cinemachine. Cinemachine's a really awesome camera controller. It makes the camera feel really good. Like it's almost like like its name. It's built for cinema. Like you can get cinematography angles with Cinemachine. And it also makes really cool movement for cameras for games. So we'll be utilizing that. So in order to utilize that, you do have to be logged in. That's perfect, Andy. You're ahead of the game there. There's something to import, but we don't need it quite yet, so it's not a huge deal right now. It's also a small file, so yeah, just sit tight. You can play around, make some objects in there if you want, make some spheres and get yourself used with the UI. But yeah, so I'll run through this part. So once you're logged in, you just want to make sure that you have a managed license. So if you click on your account and then hit manage licenses, right here, there should be an add or a refresh button. You just need a personal license. It's just a free license. You can make things in Unity up to a certain amount. Once you start selling the game, you start having to pay Unity for it, but it's free up until like $100,000 or even more now. I can't remember the exact value, but that's basically what the license contract is saying there. And then if you aren't seeing the licenses, it's not a huge deal. It sounds like you have it open there, Andy, so you should be okay. And then this second tab down here, this is the installs tab. So this is where your actual Unity versions are. This might take a little bit to install if you haven't already. Hopefully you were able to install one before the class, but if not, it's just this blue button up here. So you click on installs and then the blue button in the top right that says install editor. And then just grab whatever the latest one is. It may not be the same version directly that I have, but they're in the middle of updating Unity 6 quite frequently. This updates like weekly at this point. So just install whatever the top one is. You'll get the Unity 6, the latest version with LTS. Just stands for long-term support. So Unity will support your projects for a long time with technical feedback. So yeah, just install whatever version. I have a couple installed here. It's not a huge deal what version you have installed. But hopefully everyone was able to do a bit of that beforehand. If you weren't, it shouldn't take too long to install. And we'll be going over some how to like move around inside Unity at first. So hopefully your Unity has time to install there. You may see a screen that looks like this when you go to install. It's just trying to add additional packages. You don't need any of these except for some sort of development tool. So just make sure you at least check the top one, but you don't need any of the platform support. So if yours is still installing, hopefully it installs in the next like 20 minutes or so. That should be when we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it more, after we get to learn how to move inside the engine. But if yours is already installed, we can make a new project together. So you just want to click this blue button up here. This will let us create a new project. And then it'll give you a bunch of templates. There's a lot of fun stuff in here, but we're just going to make a universal 3D. If you're not seeing universal 3D, it's probably because of your Unity version. So you might see a list that looks more like this. So if you're seeing this one with the built-in, just make sure that you're selecting universal 3D. Yes, the dev tools needs to be checked. Yes. That's the only part that needs to be checked, is just the dev tool at the top. The rest can be unchecked. Yeah, so new project in the top right here. Yes, yep. Visual Studio Code, yep. Not a problem, not a problem. And then, yeah, from up here, this is your version, and we'll select a core template. Again, we'll just use Universal 3D, and you can give it whatever name you want here. I'm just going to call it Rollerball. This stuff doesn't matter. Just put it wherever you feel comfortable. I recommend not on a like USB hard drive, but something that's built in, but either is fine. It'll just change how fast it loads, and the organization doesn't matter either. So just rip the name, and then you can hit create. This will take a little bit to create, and you can open multiple Unity windows if you need to. So just depending on if your machine can run multiple Unity windows or not. But so this is going to install in the background. I'm going to give it a few minutes, and I'll talk about some stuff in Engine. I won't actually start any of the workshop yet. I'll wait until some of the machines get closer to ready. I'll give it about 10-15 minutes. I'm just going to talk about the interface, so feel free to just kind of watch and follow along if it's not fully open yet. Otherwise, feel free to follow along. So we're just gonna talk about the interface. So the first thing is my Unity is all a little changed. It's not the same. So when Unity actually opens, it looks something more like this. So you'll have two scenes, a game and a scene view here. But you can move the windows inside Unity like however you want. You can disconnect it. You can pop them out. You can move them around. You can make it look terrible. But that's okay. This can happen by mistake pretty easily. But anytime you want to get back to the default settings, in the top right here, there's a layout button. So right in the top right, it says layout. And hitting default will always bring you back here. Okay? So this is the default screen. Again, just a layout and then default. This will always, if you're missing like something, if a window goes missing, you can just quickly get it back by hitting that. Okay, so if you ever feel like you've messed up your UI, just go up and give that a good click, and it should come back for you there. I'll explain a couple of the components here that we're seeing on our screen. Windows, I should say, the different windows on our screen. So on the left here, we have the hierarchy. This is a list of all your game objects. So by default, it has a couple things in here. You may not have all three by default. It depends on your version of Unity. But the main camera here is what the game uses to render. So this is the camera, which will be overriding with Cinemachine today, because Cinemachine is a lot more powerful, a lot more interesting. But there's some settings here. So the left side is the objects, and then this right side, the inspector. This is all the information about the object you have selected. So it's all the code. All these little headers, all these little components, all these little sections here, these are all just scripts. These are all just code. And we'll be learning how to write a little bit of code today, but I'll also be providing some pre-written code as well. And so that's our main camera. Then the second one here is their directional light. It gives us the value of the light in the scene. It's kind of hard to estimate the light right now because there's not much in here. We'll come back and play with the lights a little bit later. And the global volume is all post-processing effects. So it's anything that you'd see. So the easiest one I find to see is usually the vignette, just because it's kind of obvious when it's turned on. But it's just a vignette. It's just a circle around the camera to kind of darken the edges. Yeah, on the global volume at the bottom, if you just turn on the intensity and play with that slider, you'll be able to see the vignette turn off and on. The post-processing effects are really fun to play with. So if you're, I'll probably show a bit more of them towards the end. But they can make a project pop like really quickly because you can add some pretty neat effects. But we'll come back to that. All right. I'll give those a few more minutes to open up there. I'll still just talk about a few things. One thing I will mention is I'll get everyone's attention. Like I'll be like, okay, we're gonna follow along now when we need to. But up at the top here, if you see this says sample scene and then the asterisk. That's saying that we have unsaved changes. So anytime you see that asterisk, if you just hit Control S, it'll save your scene, and that'll save everything inside here just in case you lose it. You may have noticed I have a couple more files than you here. That is part of the package I downloaded. We'll install that together a bit later. But I'll just talk about it a bit more. So the ribbon up here, so this up here, this white bar, this is called the ribbon in most applications. But inside here, you'll find all kinds of fun settings. Actually, if everyone that is in Unity now, if you want to follow along, we'll check a couple things. Also, Tyler, are you able to? Oh, I found it here. Never mind. I was just going to link the Google Drive here again. Here we go. So yeah, I've posted in the chat again. It wasn't an email, but again, we messed up and accidentally sent like a Slack link. So there's a link again in the chat. That'll give you a Unity package. I'm hoping most people's are at least open by now, so I'll get started into kind of moving towards creating the roller ball here. And again, if it isn't open by now, there will be a recording to watch after, so you'll be able to rebuild it if you need to. And most of this is set up inside this package as well. There's a few things missing, but we'll do that together. So yeah, once you download that, you'll get a zip folder, and inside that zip folder, you'll find this Unity package. And all you have to do with this Unity package is just drag it from your file browser and drop it in the assets folder. So just down here in the Unity window, this is your project window. It's just a big file explorer. It's the internal file explorer for Unity. So you just click, drag that from one, drop it into the other, and you'll get this this import list. And you just hit all. But mine won't light up because I've already installed some of these. But if you just hit import, it'll start to import those files. The other way to do it, if you're having trouble dragging and dropping it in, is you can right click and go to import package, custom package. So right clicking well in the project window, import package, custom package. No, that's okay. That's actually Unity's tutorial info. It's not, that has nothing to do with the workshop. Yeah, I don't. It was blocked out for me too, which is interesting. But yeah, you don't need to worry about that one. But yeah, you can hit import here and just hit open, and it'll import the same way. It's just like dragging and dropping it in. So import. Cool. And it's just above in that Google Drive link. It's in a zip folder, so you'll have to unzip it and then just drag out the Unity package. I'll just explain some movement inside Unity here. Give everyone another few minutes. So inside this scene view here, and feel free to ask as many questions as anyone needs. I'll answer them as we go. But inside this scene here, oh, URP is missing. Is it missing? I think it's missing on mine too. We'll fix that together. It's okay. That's a very common issue, is the URP being missing. It's been an issue for years. It's notoriously Unity has a lot of problems with pink materials, and it's usually because the URP is missing. We'll fix that right away though, once we get into the actual scene. But I'm just going to talk about how to move inside Unity while people get still set up here. So inside the scene view here, your top row of your keyboard from Q to T, or all the way to Y actually, so Q, W, E, R, T, Y, QWERTY, that selects this menu here. And these are all your manipulation tools inside of Unity. So the Q is just like a pan, which allows you to like pan around the scene. W, when you're clicked on an object, lets you move it with the manipulator handles. E lets you rotate things. R is scale. And the other two are just, one is a rec transform, which isn't super useful, and one is a multi-tool, so it does all three at the same time. I typically just stay to QWER, and I work with those 4 tools. Yeah, so this is a blank scene. We can start working from here. So we'll create a 3D object here just to kind of play with something. So in the scene, in the hierarchy, sorry, on the left. So in this hierarchy on the left, if you right click, you can come down to 3D object. And you can select whatever object you'd like. We'll be using a sphere a bit later for the controller, but feel free to make whatever you want. I'll just make a simple cube for now. So right click, 3D object, and then select a 3D object here. So I'll select cube. And as soon as you create it, it'll ask you to rename it. Inside Unity, honestly, it's very helpful to rename things just from a pure organization standpoint. And it's the default thing it does as soon as you create it, is it asks you to rename it here. So I just cube is fine for this, but maybe I'll call this ground. I'll flatten it as some sort of ground here. So now that you have an object selected or created, the middle mouse button, like your scroll wheel in and out, will zoom in and out. But it's relative to the object you have selected. So if you double click on an object here, it focuses on it. So if you double click in the hierarchy, it focuses on it. Or if you press F while in the scene view, that also focuses on it. So that can be a way to find your object. To rotate around, there's a couple ways. One is just holding Alt and left click. So Alt and left click will bring up this eye, which will allow you to rotate around. The other way is if you hold right click without, just hold right click, nothing else touched, you'll see the eye again. It won't let you rotate fully around. It'll just let you rotate like first person view, but it has a little Tetris piece beside it. It's trying to tell you to use the WASD key. So if you hold right click and hold WASD, you can like fly cam around. If anyone's used like old school source games on Steam, like Left 4 Dead or any of those, it's like the no fly cam or the no clip cam. So you can kind of just fly around. Shift will make you move a little bit quicker. Yeah, Gmod. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the Gmod camera. Yeah, it's the same idea. Yeah, so just holding right click and shift will speed it up, or you can just WASD it. I find most people prefer to kind of manipulate it this way. So let's just do an exercise to kind of get everyone warmed up, and then we'll jump into the actual roller ball. So let's take let's start with a you can start with any shape here. I'll just start with a sphere. And what we'll do is I want you to just drag out a couple spheres. And you can hit Control D. So Control D together will duplicate the object. So just hit Control D a couple times and make a couple different spheres and like play with their elevation. Feel free to be as messy as you want. We'll probably end up deleting all these. So you're kind of just getting familiar with the tools. So just creating a couple spheres, moving them around. You can scale some of them up, scale some of them down. But build yourself like a little circuit. And what you can try to do is like fly through your spheres. So this will help you kind of like get used to the engine a little bit. So just try to like move some spheres around, change the sizes, and just kind of fly through them with the no clip cam. There won't be any fun sound effects, unfortunately, but it at least gets you used to the tools. You can try squishing them. You can try making a really flat one. So this one's really flat. Like I squished it on one angle. You can rotate them around. If you want to be particular about your movements, holding Control will snap angles. And yeah, once you've made some spheres or whatever object, just try flying through them for a few minutes. You just hold right click. So just holding right click in the scene view, and then hitting WASD will activate the fly camera. To make it flat, I just squished it on one angle. So I pressed R. I pressed R to bring up the scale tool, and then I just pulled down on whatever axis. So in that case, I pulled down on the Y. that made a kind of a disc shape. Yeah. In Unity, so some engines and some environments are all different. I believe Unreal Engine Z is up, but in Unity Y is up. So if you have some experience with Unreal Engine, just pointing that out, there are some small differences. So in Unity, this is our coordinate system. So Y is up, and then you have your X and your Z. Some softwares take them in all differently, so just thought I'd mention that. Um, some other cool buttons, and then we'll get going a little bit more towards the roller ball. 2 will put you into a 2D view, so it'll let you see in 2D. So you can see like a bit clearer, like where like a horizon line is or something of that nature. So 2 is kind of nice for like you can even move stuff in here. It's a little easier. You can see on like a 2D view. But if you press 2 again, it'll go back to 3D. Yeah, that's a great question actually. So there's if we click on, so I'll use this sphere here. So they've asked how do we scale all axes at the same time? So if you hit R, it'll bring up this scale tool. This middle cube, the gray one in the center, that'll do all sides. That one will do all sides equally. We are just changing this transform up here when we do this. So this transform is a vector 3 of position, a vector 3 of rotation, and a vector 3 of scale. A vector 3 being an x, y, and a z coordinate. So when we are changing the scale, we're just changing these values. So if you actually just hit this like little keychain lock here too, it'll lock it so that no matter what you pull on, it'll stay locked to only do that. But it's per object basis. So if I click on a new object, the lock won't be on. Cool. So hopefully that gives everyone a little warm up, get some kind of understanding how to move around in the engine a bit more. Now that we're kind of warmed up a bit more, we can head into a bit more of the meat and potatoes of it here. Let us, we'll jump into a scene here together. So when we downloaded that package, it added some scenes for us. Right now we're in the sample scene, but inside assets here, if everyone wants to make their way to scenes, we have a control that I started, and we'll set it up and continue to work with it. It's intentionally a little broken so that we can fix it for the workshop. So if you click into the scenes folder, there is a scene here called Metal Roller. So there's a scene here called Metal Roller, and it should open something like this up. And you can see I even have the pink assets already as well. And that's from URP being a little silly, but that's okay. So clicking on that scene file there should open up this instead. And so this is a file that I set up for the workshop. It does work right now, but it's not. It's missing a couple things, like Cinemachine isn't installed yet. We have to do that together. And the reason this is pink is because Pro Builder isn't installed anymore. So I'll show you how to use those two things. Pro Builder is a modeling software inside of Unity. It's built into Unity. We have to add it onto the package later. So we'll do that together right now. We're going to both add Cinemachine and Pro Builder to the Unity. So yeah, in order to make Unity lighter to install, they basically take a lot of the packages that not everyone needs for all the time, and they just store it on a database and allow you to download it on a gate per like project basis. It makes Unity quicker, right? Like it leaves it like they have what's essential, but if you want more advanced stuff, you have to kind of add on to it. So up here, we'll add this together. So if you come up to the ribbon here, no, it won't respond to touch gestures. It will work with a gamepad. So like if we plug in a controller, it should automatically work. To work with gestures, we would have to use additional plugins to do that. Specifically, there's one called Lean Touch. I typed it in the chat. There's a free Unity package called Lean Touch that's really good for gestures if you're curious. But yeah, window up here. And then we're coming down to Package Manager. So this is where all those additional packages are. So window, Package Manager. And this is the package manager. It has changed. There's been a lot of changes for Unity 6. Unity 6 is newer. One of the things they changed was how the package manager is laid out. So if you're just looking different, you just have an older version of Unity. It should still work though. But if you're on Unity 6, you should have a similar looking package manager here. On the left side here, they have there's these drop downs for different libraries of plugins, basically. In older versions of Unity, it's like more up here on the tab. So if you have an older version, you'll find these headers like up here. They moved it for Unity 6. But we want to find the one that says Unity Registry. Unity Registry. And if you're not able to see any of this, it's possibly because you're not logged in. You just got to make sure you're logged in and that your ID is logged in the top left here. But hopefully everyone's seeing this here. So clicking on the left to Unity Registry, and then we get a whole bunch of packages. We want to scroll down, and we're looking for two. So we're going to download Cinemachine. So right here, Cinemachine. And you can click Install. So Cinemachine, and then hit the Install button right there. It's possible yours says download. It may need to download it first. So if it just says download, hit download, and then once it's done downloading, it may prompt you to install. Good. So mine's all installed there now that it says removed. And the other one we're going to install is Pro Builder. So scrolling down, Pro Builder. Again, I'll just hit install. Cool. So again, Cinemachine and Pro Builder. So right there and right there. I'll give people a few minutes for that to install. I'll kind of just talk about them though. You can see it fixed my prisms here. They're all kind of came back and not pink anymore. So the Pro Builder install fixed that. If you are still having URP issues though, let me address that right now. Everyone can follow along if they would like, but it's more specifically if people are seeing like a lot more pink than I am here. Follow along. We're just going to double check that URP is behaving properly. So if we come up to the ribbon here and hit edit, this will bring up this menu. We want to come all the way down to project settings. So edit, project settings. And mine is open to the right one, but yours may not be. We need to click on a few actually here. So we'll start with graphics. And this should be plugged in here. So mine's set up right. It has the or the asset. So it's the PC underscore RP asset. So if you click on this little bubble beside the field, so right here, this little bubble here, this will open up all your assets that are for that. Just click the PC one if it's there. And that should be all we have to do with that. The other one we'll want to double check is just is it player? Hold up. Quality, sorry. So quality on the left here, and again you'll find just another slot to put the asset, the universal pipeline asset. Same thing, just click the little dot beside it and you can just double click it there. So if you were having any URP issues, that should address it. Cool. Yeah, so this is the little scene that I've created for us to start with today. I'm not sure how much of it is still hooked up. Some stuff kind of gets decoupled when we do packages like I did for this workshop. But if we hit play up here, we'll just see what happens. So give it a play up at the top here. It'll probably buffer for a second, but it'll switch to your game view. And when you click on the screen, you'll probably find that nothing happens, and that's because I remember I broke the file just before I sent it. So there's one thing in here that's a little messed up. The cube. Sorry, there's an invisible wall that's stopping the ball from moving. That's my bad. I made the ball bigger just before I packaged it, and so this roof is too high or too low. So in your hierarchy here, if you want to make your way to, if you open up this folder here that I've created, you'll find at the very bottom of it called base roof. Or you can look for base roof just by searching up here. But you're looking for the object called base roof. And if you double click on it, it'll focus on it. It's just this green box. Just pull it up a bit. So just pull it up on the Y a bit. It's just to stop the ball from flying off. Because it can bounce around. So if you want, you can just delete it as well. I'm just going to pull mine up because I don't want it to fall off a bunch. But once you pull that up, you can press play again, and now you should be able to move around. Oh, and the Cinemachine is already connected. We'll reconnect it anyway, but it is connected with Cinemachine already, even just installing the package. So WASD will kind of like move it around. And if you hold it, you'll continue to move in that direction. But it is actually rolling the ball. You can see by the grid pattern. And so like when you collide with a wall, it's forcing you back the other way a little bit because it's rolling. But it'll react with terrain. Of course, Nicholas. Not a problem. Take care. Enjoy your meeting. There will be a recording for sure. But yeah, then you should be able to kind of move around here. There's no follow cam for you? Okay, we'll address that. Is anyone else noticing anything that's not working for them? Yeah, you can fall off. Is that what you mean, Andy? Like you can fall off like that. Oh, you have no prisms. Interesting. That's okay. We're going to rebuild quite a bit of it anyway here. I just wanted to show that there's this example file, okay? But we're gonna build it from scratch in a minute here anyway, so it's okay. I just wanted to show that there is this example file that you can go into. Oh, gotcha, Andy. Yeah, that's fine. That's part of it. Yeah, so this is just the example file that you can come back to later. We'll build this from scratch though. So we'll do a lot of the pieces together. So if things are missing from it, don't worry about it too much right now. We'll address that. Okay. So that's the example file. But let's build our own from scratch here. Okay, so if you do need to come back to this, you can come back to this and load it. But we'll combine it together. So if you want to open up the scenes folder again, we're gonna make a new scene. Okay. So let's right click. So down here in the assets folder, go to scenes. And inside here, we're gonna right click. So right click, create, and we're gonna make a new scene. So over to create, down to scene, and then scene again. And you can just call this like my rollerball or something to indicate that it's your version of it. So create, scene, and I'll call this my rollerball. And then once you make that scene, just double click on it and it'll switch to a brand new scene here. Perfect. So in this scene here, we'll build it from scratch together. So the first thing we'll do is we'll get a ball added. We won't give any control to the player yet. We're just gonna make a ball and we're gonna let it drop and let the camera follow it. Okay, that's the first thing we're gonna do. So we'll start by we're gonna need two things. We're gonna need a cube and we're gonna need a sphere. And we're going to need a Cinemachine camera, so three things actually. So I'm going to start by making the cube. This will be the ground. So in the hierarchy, if you want to right click, 3D object, cube. So right click, 3D object, cube. And we can rename this ground. Again, if you double click on it, it'll focus on the object. Anytime you make something in the hierarchy like this, it defaults it to the origin of the world, so 0, 0, 0, which is perfect. But let's scale this out a little bit, just to give us a little bit more space to work with. So just click on the ground, double click if you need to, zoom out a bit. And we're just going to scale it down. Not too flat. Give it a little bit of depth. And then you can scale it out. So just scale it flat. And then you can scale it out. And then you'll get a little bit of like a play space to work with. Make it as big or small as you want. It can go crazy. If you want to make it huge, you can. Don't have to. It's just showing you can. Unity is in its own units. So when we're talking scale, it is technically like ambiguous. I like to think of it in meters just because that's the default I like to go to. So in my opinion, I like taking it and assuming that 1 equals 1 meter for everything. But it's an arbitrary scale, so you could theoretically be saying everything is centimeters. So just keep that in mind. But for our purposes, we'll just assume everything's like 1 meter. Not that we need to know much anyway. I just wanted to give context into the numbers. So we got a flat ground here, which is good. One thing we'll want to do though is I've set up some tags in the file already. But if you click on the ground now, and over here in the inspector, you'll see up at the top it says tag. We're just going to click on that, and I've already made a bunch here for us. Just come down and hit tag and go to ground. Good. And then we'll create the player here. So if you want to right click in the hierarchy again, we're going to make a 3D object. So right click, 3D object, and then we're selecting sphere. And you can name this player. And so if you double click on it, it'll zoom in, and you'll notice by default it'll be clipping through our ground. Obviously we don't want this, so let's raise it up. So double click on it and press W for the move tool. So player W, and just pull it up. Take it a little bit off the ground. We're going to give it some physics, so it should fall. But then we need to change some stuff in the inspector here. So with the player or the sphere selected, we're going to change its tag to player. So tag player. And then just to give you some context for some of this stuff, the mesh filter here is the shape of the mesh. So in this case, it's a sphere. The mesh renderer is everything to do with like the way it looks. We can actually change this. We can change this to the material I have set up. I actually have a couple materials, and you're welcome to use whatever material you'd like. We won't get into too much on materials today, but if you click this little, so on the mesh renderer, if you open up this materials tab here, you'll see it says lit. And so this is the default lit material. If we click the little circle beside it, it'll give you like a finder. I've made a couple materials. They're mostly just, one's called gold, one's called gold emissive, but it's actually just a blue light. But right here, the iron one, this is the one I was using. It's got a bit of a grid pattern on it just so we can see it roll. And yeah, Andy, it totally does. It has a built-in physics system. Actually, it's the NVIDIA physics system, so it's built straight in. There's also Havoc, which if you go Unity Pro, it's a more it's a different physics system that's more advanced. There's water, yes. The more advanced water is in the HDRP. It actually comes from, if I'm not mistaken, the water physics engine is directly made from the movie Avatar, specifically the second one, because it does a lot of underwater scenes. And so the high-end physics engine in Unity is actually based off, I don't know if it still is, because I think they parted ways. But yeah, the high-end water physics was based off the Avatar movies, like physics engine. In terms of URP, we kind of have to make our own water, but the high-end version is like that. But yeah, that's if you are curious on how to make your own water, specifically, like the first thing that comes to mind is like a toon shader. Like if you've ever played Legend of Zelda games, Wind Waker. Wind Waker's water is like a good starting point for learning to make water. It just basically is like water caustics kind of moving back and forth. The way you would do water is using something like shader graph. So shader graph is an interactive visual scripting tool for creating shaders. Very fun. We're not going to get into that, but just, yeah, that is how you would make water if you're curious. So yeah, that gives us a material. And then here we have the sphere collider. This is just saying like the object has a body. It's not saying it has gravity. It don't think it has physics. It's just saying like it has a body. It's kind of acting more like a rigid wall right now. Um, so as long as it has a collider, it's basically considered like a wall. Okay. So our sphere has one, and our box has a collider too. It has a box collider, and it's noted by the green here. To add physics, we need to give it a rigid body. So here, there's this add component button. If you click on that, you can type in and find scripts. We want to look up rigid body. So if you just start to type ridge, you'll see it here. We just want the rigid body. We don't want the rigid body 2D. Basically, the 2D and 3D physics don't communicate to each other. They're separate. So the rigid body is what we want because we're working in 3D. So this rigid body here. This is what gives it physics. Okay. So this is all the physics information for it. Again, the scale and the mass and stuff is all ambiguous. Like it's a mass of one relative to all the other masses in the scene, not like 1 kilogram or anything like that. It's a mass relative to the other masses around it. And then if you actually hover your mouse over the words, you'll get a little tooltip telling you like a bit about them. So if you are curious about some of them. We're not going to change too much on this, but I do want to turn the mass up to about 200. I don't fully understand the question on how to change the body. Sorry. What did you mean by that, per se? Oh, how to get the rigid body. Yes, sorry. It's hitting this add component button here. And then just type rigid body. And you should find it there. And then yeah, so just setting the mass to 200. And then don't play with these values too much yet. We'll come back to these once we get the controller a bit more set up. And then the one thing I do want to change here is the collision detection. So by default, it's set to discrete. The short and sweet of it is in Unity and in most, like every game engine, if something's moving too fast, it'll clip through a wall, right? It'll just go right through the wall. Specifically, if anyone's played like Super Mario 64, the infamous like longwards, the backwards long jump, and then they go through the wall. That's an example of collision detection being set to like a lower value. Like you're basically moving so fast the wall doesn't exist to you. And so inside Unity, it's set to discrete by default, which is like it's more performant, but it's not very accurate. So I always like to switch this. So if you click on discrete, you can turn it to continuous dynamic. And that is like the best version of the physics engine you can get. And it's a lot. It still can clip through walls if you're moving too fast, but it's a lot harder for it to do it. And I'm changing the mass to 200 just because the controller we're building is going to actually be affecting the rigid body. Essentially, the controller we're building is going to blow air at the ball, like on each side when you press a button. So you're going to be blowing air at the ball. So we want it to be a bit heavy so that it can kind of interact with other objects more interestingly. So if the ball is heavier, it'll be able to like push other objects out of the way. That's kind of the idea of why I changed the mass in this case. So yeah, if you have all that set up, if you press play, you'll see the camera. You'll see the camera hopefully here. But you can also see in the scene view when you press play, the ball should just fall down. Nothing special yet, just fall down. You should have no camera control, no movement, no nothing. Just watching the ball fall. Once you're done, you just press the stop button and it'll go back. Tyler, how am I doing for time? Just so I know. Okay. Cool. So now let's add the camera to it. So there is a camera already in here, but like I mentioned, we want to use Cinemachine instead. So what Cinemachine does is a plugin that basically people made Cinemachine as a plugin for Unity, and then Unity paid them and just outright bought it and put it in the engine. That's how a lot of the packages in that browser get added, is they're just directly bought out from Unity after people create them, which is super cool. So that's like another avenue of like revenue you can try to generate from Unity, is just building tools in the engine and literally selling it to customers or directly back to Unity. Though that is a way to make money in here. Um, but what we'll do is we'll add the Cinemachine. So if you right click and come down to, you should have a Cinemachine tab now. So right click and then Cinemachine. If you aren't seeing this, it's possible that you see it. Sorry, you're waiting for something to execute, John? What do you mean by that? Oh, did you press play and is it just hanging there? Like it's just waiting? But yeah, if you right click Cinemachine, and then we're gonna go to targeted cameras and follow camera. So right click in the hierarchy, down to Cinemachine, targeted cameras, follow camera. There's a whole bunch of cameras in here. We're not going to mess with any of the other ones, but this one will work for our purposes. If it's still hanging on the, yeah, I know what you're saying now, John. If it's still hanging on the code execution there, that is strange. It really shouldn't be doing that, especially because we haven't added too much to the project. My best advice would maybe be to close it and reopen it if you can. Because yeah, it shouldn't be hanging anywhere yet. But as soon as we make that Cinemachine camera, it actually it takes control of our other camera. So as you can see here, the Cinemachine now has like a bunch of properties here, but it's also put this little icon beside our camera, and that's just indicating that it's now taking control of it. So at the bottom of our camera, there's now this brain. But we only really care about this Cinemachine here. Yes, I inserted a follow camera, correct. So this is the follow camera here. You can see that it put it right to world origin, but it wants us to do some stuff before it's completely set up. So right here, there's a tracking target. So in the Cinemachine camera, there's a tracking target. You want to hit this eye, or the little dot beside it again here, and it'll bring up a selection menu. You want to make sure you're on assets. Whoops. Sorry. You want to make sure you're on scene. My bad. So you're on the scene tab, and just select your player. So little dot, scene tab, and then select player. And then you'll notice that the camera will adjust itself. It'll back up and it'll look at your camera or your player. The one thing we want to change here is the rotation control. For the time being, we just want to change this to hard look at. So procedural components, rotation control. We just want to change it from hard rotation composer to hard look at. And then, so hard look at here, player here, and that's mostly set up. So it's set up to follow this sphere, which is awesome. Right here, where it says Cinemachine follow, this is like our offset angle. So this is like how it's going to defaultly look at it. So we can actually raise it up a bit and like give it like a bit better of an angle. And you can even zoom in a bit if you want to. I wouldn't change this part here though. You could maybe bring it down a little bit on the Y just so it's looking at like the base of the ball, but other than that, I wouldn't change it too much. So yeah, these settings are great here. And if you press play again, the camera should now like follow the ball a bit while it drops. And it should do like it. The way it also like when it hits the ground and the camera kind of like adjusts, that's called dampening. So it's properly like dampening the camera, and that's all stuff you would have to program otherwise. Cinemachine is amazing for that. So again, it's just a falling ball right now. It's not doing anything. And that yellow dot in the center, that's just a visual thing for Cinemachine. You wouldn't actually see that in the game. It's just like it's just a visual. It's actually only because we're clicked on the Cinemachine camera. Like if you click away, it goes away. So it's just kind of showing you what the camera is actually looking at directly, because we have the hard look at controls. Cool. All right. So any questions about that so far? Cool. Oh, mine, right here, I just typed it in. Do you not have this component? Was this component missing? I just typed in like 3 and -8 roughly. %, Andy. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I've used LiDAR for quite a few things. Oh, John, I can show you real quick again. They're just random numbers. I just eyeballed it and changed those numbers based on how I felt. There's no real rhyme or reason to them. I just kind of liked the angle. It just felt like a good angle to look at the player. You can change them to whatever angle you want. Feel free. Yeah, so you can't you mean you can't move it in the scene, Andy, like this? Like I'm trying to move mine and it won't let me? Yeah, that's intentional. So that's the Cinemachine brain. It's taking complete control over the camera. You're not allowed to move it this way. It's all controlled automatically and dynamically through the Cinemachine. Great question though. Yeah, that's just part of it. Yep. Yeah, no, Cinemachine takes like full control over everything here. It just kind of locks you out and says, "Hey, I got the camera. Don't worry about it." John, for you, I'll go back over it. So I'm just gonna go back over it real quick here. So if you already have a Cinemachine, you don't need to follow along. So just right-clicking in the hierarchy, down to Cinemachine, and then at targeted cameras, follow camera. Right-click, Cinemachine, targeted cameras, follow camera. And then the two important settings are, this is clicking this target tracking, the little dot beside target tracking, making sure you're on scene here, and just select the player. And changing rotation control to hard look at. That should get you back up and running with the controller, John. Right here, rotation control, hard look at. Cool. All right. So let us add. We're gonna add on the script for the movement. We're not gonna code too much, but we will add a jump to it. So we'll add a jump together, but we won't go too in depth on the coding. We'll just kind of use what I've created for us. So we'll hit add component here at the bottom. And this will actually let us search for scripts that we've created. So if you search player, we actually want two things here. We want the player, there's player and player input. We need to add both these. Player is a script that was written, and player input is Unity's input system. So I'm clicked on the player as in the ball. And I'm going to give it both player script and the player input. So I added these two components here. Yeah, the tracking target and then scene and player. So again, just on the player, I've hit add component and I searched player and I'm adding a player and a player input. We don't have to do much on this player input. Everything is kind of set up by default. The one thing we do want to change though is we do need to change this. Give me 1 sec. I'm just going to double check something. You don't need to follow along for a second here. Just stay in the scene you're in. I'm just double checking what I put on this. Yeah, I thought so. I changed this part here. Okay. So back in our scene here, we also need to add the health. Forgot about that. It'll error out. So add a third component. Just add a health script here. So player input, and health. And then once you get the health added, if you click on the word health, you can click and drag it. So click and drag and just dock it here where it says health. So it's the only spot it'll let you put it in. So click and drag health and put it in the health slot here. We want to set this impulse force to a bit higher. So like 2,500. The sustain is actually better at like 1.25, and the blend is better at like 1.8. The health bar is just part of the script. we don't really need it for anything. It's just it'll break if it's not in there. Um, yeah, it's a bit more advanced than I want to go with for the workshop, so don't worry about it too much. Just add it for now. I just hit add component, and then just add the health component to the player. So just hit add. And it should add the health here. And then you just drag the health from here to the health slot. So from here to there. Cool. And then, yeah, just change the settings on the player here. The important one is just the impulse force needs to be higher, like 2,500 is pretty good. Sustain, I put a little bit higher, like 1.25. And the blend factor is 0.8. Good. One more setting we need to do here. Right here on the player input, there is something we need to change. It says behavior right here at the moment. It says send messages. We actually need to change that to invoke Unity events. So where it says send messages, we're just flipping that to invoke Unity events. And once you switch it to invoke Unity events, you'll see this drop down for events. So behavior, invoke Unity events, and then this drop down appears. And we'll open it up. Can you not hear me, Andy? I'm assuming my sound's still working. I can see the mic is turning on. Thank you for letting me know. But yeah, I opened up events and then player. And we'll see something here called move callback context. Actually, I'm just gonna we'll come back to that. Let's try opening the script first. Actually, we're gonna take a look at the player script. Now, not everyone's might open properly. It just depends on if your Visual Studio installed properly or not. But right here, where the player script is, if you click on it once, it'll take you to where it is in the folder. So right here in the player script where it's kind of grayed out, if you click on it, it'll kind of highlight it. And if you double click it, it'll open up the script. And it should open Visual Studios. Again, if your Visual Studios isn't hooked up, it won't hook up right away. It'll work without us editing anything, but I do want to add a jump to it. So you shouldn't need Visual Studios, but if you do have it, then we can do some tweaks. But we'll take a look at the code a little bit and just chat about it a bit. So yeah, we're not, like I said, we're not gonna change much in here. It's pretty much set up for us. Um, I just kind of wanted to chat a little bit about the code. So inside Unity here, this at the top, this chunk here, these are all our variables. So some of them are hidden from users, like we're storing a variable for the rigid body and the camera. But then some of them are open for us to see. So these are the ones we could see: the impulse force, the sustain force, the blend factor, and the max speed. These values here, what we were typing inside the inspector earlier, those are the ones that are actually active. So I'm just going to, I'll peek at it here for you. So these here are the actual values. These are just the default ones if it doesn't know what to put. And then, yeah, there's a method here that's basically grabbing input from controller. So right here, this on move input. So what happens is Unity's input engine. When we input, say, like, wow, that's a big text. When we input like a movement like WASD or whatever we have mapped in the input actions, by default the input actions is set up to work with arrow keys and WASD for movement. But it also should work for like the thumbstick on a joystick as well. It's the Unity's new input system. I use the word new lightly. It's been around for like 3 or 4 years now. Um, it works a little differently. It's like my preferred way to take inputs in Unity now. I try to avoid the other method as much as I can because it's a bit archaic. It makes it really hard to like. The biggest thing with the old system is it just makes it hard to program it for multiple devices. You would have to reprogram everything like 6 times. It's much easier just to create these like action sets and like connect them to them. It's a little technical, but if you do get into Unity, that'll make more sense as you go along. So right here, this callback action that it's doing, this is where it's getting input from the controller. So what we're saying is that when you get information from the controller, it's going to read it right here and store it in this variable. And so if the controller or the user has pressed any buttons, moving becomes true because the context is performed. So if you press a button, basically is what this is saying is if the user presses a button, do the rest of this stuff. So if you're pressing a button, what it'll do is it says, okay, hey, they're moving. This is just a what's considered a bool. So it's a true false question. It's saying, hey, they are moving. So we put it into the true position. And then I'm doing some calculations here to just get the information of the camera because I wanted to make the ball's movement relative to the camera. So it's just grabbing a bunch of information about the camera and storing it. So the camera's forward direction, where it's looking to the right. And then it's just normalizing that information, which means it's just bringing it to like a magnitude of 1. So if the value is, say, like 10 in the x direction, it would say 1 instead. Or if it was negative 10, it would say negative 1 instead. So it only brings it to a magnitude of 1, both positive and negative. Right here, this is creating the new movement. So it's taking our direction and taking our input plus the camera and normalizing it. So it's saying, hey, what direction do they want to head? This is where the camera is looking. And then we use a math function called this is called a lerp, or a linear interpolate. It just means it's gonna over time get to the value at a very constant rate. So the curve, the line would be like an angle, and it'd be like a steady increase of, and make it very smooth. That's all it's doing, is it's a smooth interpolation of a number. So That's the best way I can kind of describe it. Actually, I think I have a tool here. Let me look up something real quick. There it is. Yeah, so these are I love this site. I'm just gonna link it real quick. So this is all the types of easing. So these are just different types of graphs. And so like if you hover over them, it shows you like this the movement of this little thing would be considered like the speed or the smoothness of the interpolation. So the little tick mark that goes up. So a linear interpolate. Is it the only one that's not on here? That's funny. A linear interpolate would be closest to something like this, but it would be completely straight. It wouldn't have the arc. So this has a little bit of a buildup. A linear interpolate would be just directly straight. But yeah, these are just different curve functions. Yeah, this site's really cool. It just kind of gives you a better understanding of the animation and the flow. Yeah, so it takes in those inputs, and then this is where we're moving the ball. So we're taking, this is the rigid body, the RB. So up here we've stored a rigid body, and then right here we're grabbing the rigid body and saying, hey, like if this component has a rigid body attached, we want its information. So our script is stealing well, not stealing, but it's getting the information from the rigid body and storing it. And down here, we're saying, hey, if they're pressing a button, let's add force. So we're going to add a force, an impulse force in the movement input direction. So essentially, we're taking the ball and virtually we're kind of just smacking it real quick. We're just being like, okay, go to the left, go to the right. We're just kind of like smacking the ball just a little bit around, but it's just a quick impulse. Like you're just kind of tapping it and then it goes. But I've added some stuff into the update that once you let go, like if you tap a direction and let go, it kind of like one, it'll clamp its speed so it doesn't go crazy, but the two is it'll give it a sustain, so it'll just gradually roll after. So you can like tap it in a direction and just let it roll, or you can hold the button down to move. So either works, and it makes it kind of feel like a fluid ball that we're going to be playing with. We'll try to add a jump in here, but I know we're getting kind of close on time. Let's just test this out though. So if you save that up, well, you shouldn't have to save. We didn't do any changes, but I just was kind of showing you the context of it there. But if we go back into Unity now, I think all we have to do is hit play, and it should let us move around. Not quite. There's still something missing. I think it's just a matter of connecting this event. Let me test it first, and then I'll run you through what I did, okay? I thought I might auto call that, but I get confused sometimes. I've changed this quite a bit since I've been using it over the years. Yeah, so it was just the fact now the little bit of jittering is because I gave it an offset. I forgot that's why I didn't want to give the Cinemachine an offset. So I'll change two things here. Okay. I'll show you what I hooked up, and then I'll show you. So right here, behavior, and then setting this to invoke Unity events, right? So this is the player input. And then we open up the events, and we open up player. So you should then see move callback context. Remember, that was what was in the code there. It said callback context. So this is how they connect. So this player input is what's getting your keyboard information and sending it to our player. So what you have to do is this list will be empty. So the move context, you just hit the plus, and that'll open up your ability to add a method, basically, is what we're doing here. So it's allowing you to add a code when the player inputs. So we'll just drag our player script and drop it in there. So just click and drag on it from here and drop it in here. And then if you click on where it says no function, it'll give you a list of all the components that are attached. But we want to specifically go to our player, and right at the top here, it's in the dynamic callback context area. We just want the on move input. So player, on move input. And the one thing I just need to change from mine is I gave it, I just clicked back on the Cinemachine for a sec. This look at offset is what causes the jittering, I'm pretty sure. So you just want to make sure your hard look at offset is set to 0. Then it shouldn't do the weird jittering it was doing. It should look smoother. Yeah, so the jittering is now gone. It's pretty zippy because of the amount of impulse I gave it. But you should be able to move on angles. Kind of have to like let go of the angles at the same time to stay on that angle. But it also should plug in well with a controller. I haven't tested it. I do have one right here. I wonder if I can test it like super quick. There we go. Plugged in my controller. Let me try that. Yep, it works right away. So it's working with the controller stick input as well. I haven't even tested it till now. So that's the new input system. Is it allows you to just seamlessly like code for multiple input devices at the same time. And you can see how worried about it I was considering I didn't even test it before the workshop. It's really slick at what it does. So yeah, it should work. This is just a 360 controller, but it should work with any gamepad that you just kind of quickly install. It should work with the D-pad right away. And sorry, not the D-pad, the joystick. And it's kind of, honestly, the controller's a bit more designed for a joystick because you can get those like angles a bit easier, but it's really zippy. I definitely turned up the speed on it compared to when I made it earlier. But yeah, does everyone got a ball moving around on their screen now? They all got something kind of moving? Awesome. Yeah, feel free to play with if you want to like change the way it's moving. I wouldn't change the blend factor or the sustain force. You can a little bit, but it's mostly this impulse force that's doing a lot of the driving, and the mass. So a combination of changing the impulse force and the mass will change the speed of it. So if I make it a bit heavier and bring it down a little bit, it won't be as zippy. And then yeah, and then you can make the space a little bigger if you need to now that we're kind of moving around. And you can add like other objects. Like if you want, you can like add a cube, and you could pull it out and like maybe make a little bit of a ramp. So you could just rotate it on a 45 and make it bigger. Now you got a little bit of a ramp you can play with. I'll just put a couple of ramps. Just more to play with the physics more than anything. So you can kind of like just test those out and really fire yourself off the ramps if you have the forces all set up pretty high like I do, so you can get the ball really going there. And you'll notice like as you like go to the left, like the camera kind of responds with you, like it's turning with you a little bit, right? Like you don't have like a full 360 range of motion, but you have like a 180. Like you can actually kind of keep like an arc. I don't know if you kind of can see that there. But yeah, Cinemachine is awesome. It always makes the game look so much like better fast. Like just the way it handles the camera and the dampening is just so fun. So I always like to show people it as soon as I can because it really changes how you look at the project. It can make your controller just like pop all of a sudden. So really got some height there. The other thing we added in the project was we added Pro Builder, and it's right here. So it's these 3 buttons here. This will let you get some more interesting shapes. So if you click and hold where it says right here, the second one, if you click and hold on this, you'll get even differenter shapes. So like let's use the torus here. As soon as you click a new one, it'll give you this yellow dot. You just click and drag, let go, and click and drag. So you just click a couple times basically, and it'll make the shape. But it also gives you this like editor up here where you can modify it once you create it. So fun one to play with is actually there's one that's stairs. There it is. The stairs are really good. So you can just make like full stairs like really quickly. But yeah, Cinemachine is like a full modeling editing software. So if you know anything about like Blender or other modeling softwares, it's right here. Do you see this button here? Okay, yeah. So clicking and holding will change the shape. Once you're in that shape, so like say if you take so if you all want to do this together, let's all make a cube together real quick. I'll just show you something. So if you click and hold on it and come up to create a cube, so click, hold, create a cube, then your first click will be the corner, and then when you let go, it'll make a square, and then it'll ask you to do the height. So click, drag out, let go, pull up. So click, hold, drag, let go, pull up. And so you can just make a couple squares real quick. And when you have them selected, you'll notice that there's these blue lines. You can adjust these. And so you can adjust the shape, but it's only on whatever you have selected. To select other things, like you have to go back to your move tool. So press W and you'll go back to your move tool. But then you can click this little edit Pro Builder shape anytime to like go back to this editor, but only when you're selected on one. And then for people that are more advanced, if you click this gold one at the top, this will let you like full on do transforms and edit the geometry like in a way that another editor like Blender or 3ds Max would do. Oh, really? That is strange. The Pro Builder was just updated. Like it's been updated along with Unity 6, so I'm not even fully versed on the changes of it yet. But this is all like completely new that it's set up here. The way it was set up before, like it had its own like menu like this, but that's all gone. Like they've completely gotten rid of it. I think if you come up to tools in the ribbon here, you might find some more information here. So this tools pro builder thing was added, and there might be some options here. But yeah, so you can like fully edit things in here, which is awesome. Pro Builder is really powerful. Again, it's one of those tools like Cinemachine. A company made it as a plugin, and then Unity bought it from them and installed it as like part of the system or part of the software. So yeah, all these should work with the ball. So once you make a couple things, you can try running into them and see how the physics interacts with the roller ball. They come with mesh colliders by default, so like I can't really go up the staircases because the ball is just rolling. But I can use the ramp to like kind of try to go around. There we go. Woo. I think that covers most of it. How are we doing on time, Tyler? Okay. Um, yeah, let me just. I'll just together. We'll just quickly add a jump. I think I can add it super quick. Let me just double check something. I'm just double checking something. No one needs to follow along or anything. 100%. Yeah, it totally works with like that as well. So yeah, you could totally get like a Super Mario Odyssey kind of camera feel from it. There's a lot more settings. The following camera is just kind of the easiest to wrap our heads around at first, especially the hard look at follow. It just kind of adds the dampening. But yeah, you can get a full orbital rotation. It imply you have to like set up the right stick to actually work for it, but it is built into there. Um, Let me just double check. Okay, both. Sweet. Yeah, just to show you real quick, if you are curious, it's right here where we set um, that one is probably what you're looking for. Now you would have to do some more tweaks because mine isn't quite set up to work with it, but on the cinema controller, the position control plus the orbital follow, that's more probably what you're thinking of in terms of that. Love Super Mario Odyssey though. That's a great game. That's such a good game. Holy. Okay. We'll quickly add a jump, and then we'll call it. So if your script is working, just double click into this player script, and we'll try to add a jump here. We won't use the new input system for it. We'll just code it to work with the spacebar. Just because it can take a little bit to explain the new input system, so I'll just show you how to code it with the spacebar for now. We're just gonna yeah, all we need to do is if we come down to our update method, we're just going to work inside here. We're just going to add like a simple line. It won't be too much. So what we can do is we can use the old input system. So we can make an if statement. So inside here, just want to give yourself a new line. So after the curly bracket of update, just one new line is all we need. And then we're going to type if and followed by the parentheses. And then it'll give you these curly brackets, and we're just going to work inside here. So just inside this is this here. and we'll do input dot any key down, or sorry, not any key down. So what I'm doing here is called IntelliSense. So if I type input and dot, this is the IntelliSense window. It's showing me all the options that we can do. So these are all methods that will get information for us. So we can get key down, for example. So input dot get key down, and it wants a key code. So if we hover over it, it's going to say right here. It's an input, it gets keys down, and then it wants a key code and a key. So if we give it key code dot, you can give it whatever key, but I'm just going to give it space. And this is going to work more like a fly than a jump, because it's not going to check for the ground, so it's not going to know when they've retouched the ground. So as long as you're like pressing space, it'll continue to jump, basically. You could code it so that it's shorter or less. But we simply just need to access the rigid body, and we'll add, we're going to do similar to what I did to move it. So right here, I added a force. We're going to do the same thing, but we're just going to make the force go up. So we'll add force, and add force is looking for it's looking for a vector for the force. So in this case, we can just actually tell it the vector. So the vector is x, y, z. So if we tell it 0, 1, 0, like that, that's telling it that we want it to go in the y direction, so the up direction. And then it needs a force mode. Impulse is the best one for this. But we do need to multiply this by the impulse force. Oops. Sorry, I'm typing it wrong here. So it's right here. We need to multiply this 1 by impulse force. In the top left, does yours say assembly C# or miscellaneous? Mine says assembly right here, assembly C#. Because it's strange that it's saying it's not initialized. I'm not sure on that one. It sounds like the coding environment might not be understanding Unity's mono behavior correctly, which is a common problem. It does that all the time when people first install. But yeah, something like that should work. Yeah, so then it's Unity's not connected properly to your coding environment. It'll be difficult to code. I can't really bug fix that right now, but it's just, yeah, that's just Unity being silly. It's up here in tools and get tools and features. It's somewhere in there is the answer. But something like that should work. So I'm just going to test it. Yeah, so every time I press space, it just climbs up like a little bit. And you can keep pressing it, and you'll kind of fly around. There's no limit on it. So, if you did the inverse, you could create a slam. So, if instead of doing it in the y direction, if you did it in a negative y, you could make a slam towards the ground, right? Because the ball is feeling kind of lightweight, but it just has default gravity, so it's falling at 9.81 meters per second. Well, it's not meters because Unity's not in meters, but it's falling at 9.81 per second. So you can like force it to fall more. I guess it kind of feels like Flappy Bird right now. Actually, that's what it feels like is Flappy Bird, because you can kind of infinitely go up, but you're always kind of falling, sort of thing. So, but yeah, that pretty much wraps up the workshop here. If anyone has any comments, questions, or any of that, like, go ahead. We can do some Q&A here towards the end. But before I do that, does anyone have any like just like bug fixes or debugging they need me to take a look at before we wrap up? Also, if you want your game view to be larger, um, if you click on the game tab, there's this play focused. You can switch it to play maximized, and it'll play the full thing. Oh yeah, that's no fun. So this went completely missing on you. Honestly, the best way is to just flick this. So in the top, it either says layout or default. Just click on that and select default again, and it should come back. That's the easiest way. Yeah, not a problem. Awesome. All right. It sounds like there's no debugging questions. So, yeah.
I can jump in here too. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep.
We got too many muting functions, one on the mic, one on my computer, another one on the computer, mute them all at once. I forget to turn them on sometimes, but yeah, Matt, that was awesome. Really, really, yeah, nice, super clean, as you're seeing in the chat there too. Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, Matt just gave the opportunity. If you guys had any questions about the build today, any bugging or debugging or anything like that, feel free to throw that in. Maybe what I'll do here quick, we can just both stay up on the stage here, Matt. I don't really have that many slides to share. I was just gonna quickly kind of here, I'll show you guys. Like I don't really have. It's more of just a thanks for coming sort of slide, and like that was Matt. I wanted to mention that we do have bootcamp financing available. So if anybody's looking for information in addition to the promos that we have for our bootcamps. Oh, and here I'll throw this too, guys. I'll add this as a notification. You should get a little link in the corner there. If you click that link, if you have any other questions about our courses or education, you can book a meeting directly with our team there, and they can answer anything that you need that way. So feel free to book a meeting with them if you like. And then otherwise, if you want to submit an application, you can follow these QR codes directly to our website and our university partner websites. You can kind of get to it that way. You can also just go to circuitstream.com if you want to look for any information that way. And yeah, the easiest way to reach out to us is admissions@circuitstream.com. Like I said earlier, you can always reach out to me too. My name is Tyler. My email is just tyler@circuitstream.com. So I can always point you in the right direction if I can answer a question. If it's something technical about the game development workshop, I'd probably ask someone like Matt before I came back and answered it for you anyways. But I can always find those people anyway. So don't hesitate to reach out if you do need anything. But otherwise, thank you everyone for coming here today. Thank you all so much for joining. It's always fun seeing the live build kind of happen in real time and watching the ball roll around. And I was thinking the same thing, can it fall off the table right as somebody was asking that question? So it's always really neat just to see how the coding actually brings things to life. So thanks, Matt. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. We will have more information sessions, workshops, things kind of coming up. The best place to see that is if you go to circuitstream.com, scroll to the bottom of the page and click on the events tab. It'll show you kind of the upcoming events that we have. But you're here today, chances are you're in our system, meaning that you'll receive some email communications from us, and we'll always send out invitations to our upcoming events and stuff too. So kind of keep an eye out for that. But yeah, Matt, I'd love to have you back. As you know, I mean, obviously you work with us, so you're stuck with us anyways, but back for another workshop session like this. It was really,
for
really
sure.
cool.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. It's fun stuff doing this.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Is it Tuesday today? I think it's Tuesday. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, folks. And yeah, we'll see you in the next session. All right. Cheers. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.